Hello YouTube, JJ Merrill here, and welcome back to yet another installment of my Dota 2 strategy series, where we pause the game before the creep waves even spawn. So, this particular game I've been looking forward to for a very long time, and I'm incredibly lazy, which is the reason why I haven't published it yet. But this particular video is going to cover Leshrac. Again, one of my favorite heroes in the game. I know I say that about everybody, but man, this guy is a freaking beast. And hopefully by watching this video, I'm going to impart to you some knowledge on how to play the hero effectively so that you can have just as much fun with him as I have. So, I'm actually going to leave this pause because there is a lot that I want to talk about during this video, and I feel like this is going to give me a good chance to cover some stuff. And by the way, I apologize for the headless and tailless Sand King. I do not know how to fix this. Probably because I'm watching an older replay, so the models have been updated in a recent patch or something like that, but that's okay. I apologize for that. I hope it's not going to be terribly disruptive, and we're just going to try to... God, that looks horrible. We're just going to ignore it as best we can. So, this particular game, I'm going to be playing the role of a support, Leshrac. However, I want to emphasize that Leshrac is a very versatile character. He can be played in a variety of different roles, including, but not limited to, playing support in a dual lane, being the farmer in a dual lane, solo mid. He can take a solo lane by himself. I have not tried him in a tri-lane yet, but I have reason to believe he'd be effective there as well, because this hero has a ridiculous amount of utility and a whole lot of killing power, a lot of pushing power. He can do a lot of different things. So, this particular game, let's go ahead and go over the lanes, and yeah, a lot of battle points this game. Let's go and go over our lanes, and we'll go from there. So, I'm going to be playing Leshrac with a farming Sand King here in the top lane. Going to have a Death Prophet that just has her chest piece in the middle lane. Going to have a Treant with a Riki here in the bottom lane. I immediately do not like this. Dual melee lanes are almost never a good idea. They're going to be against an Anti-Mage and a Shadow Shaman, rather powerful lane, so these guys might have a little bit of a hard time. Going to be against an Axe here in the middle lane, going for a Battle Hunger build, which is horribly annoying. And Sand King and I are going to be against a Crystal Maiden and a Drow. So, right away, let's go and talk about my starting items. I chose to opt to buy some Observer Wards while the other support picked up our Courier. I immediately warded the top rune spot so that our mid could have eyes on that and tell where the rune is going to be. So there are a lot of things I want to talk about in this video. Particularly, right away, I want to talk about how to play a good and effective support. So to that end, I want to talk about the reason why a lane like Sand King Leshrac is so effective. Now, notice I'm letting Sand King get all this farm. The reason that I personally do not favor a farming Leshrac in a lane like this is because if the Sand King were to be the one supporting me, he wouldn't be able to emit a zone of control and harass these guys like Leshrac can. By playing a long-range hero like Leshrac, and that Leshrac does have 600 range, by the way, which is incredibly helpful. It's the same amount of range that a Crystal Maiden has. I'm going to be able to let Sand King come in here, farm safely, keep these guys off his back, deny creeps, and make sure he has a very safe time. So we're going to let this lane push out, and I want to show you guys just how powerful this lane can be, particularly any kind of lane that has any kind of dual stun or dual disable setup. And notice right away that I've harassed Crystal Maiden down to almost half of her health. Let's take a look at their starting item and see how this looks. This is a really standard starting build for Crystal Maiden. This is fine. She probably picked up the Courier, filled in her stats with branches. I like this build. Plenty of regen. Got a Clarity Potion as well. Nothing wrong with this. Good starting skill build as well. But notice what I'm doing here is I'm kind of hanging around. I'm actually going to hero chasement so I can draw a little bit. I'm hanging around right here and right here. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to emit a constant zone of control to where Drow and Crystal Maiden cannot possibly pass that zone without taking damage by me. The Drow, this is fine too. I don't necessarily agree with taking a silence this early, but Slipper, some stats, some regen, this is fine. Fine starting items. Again, notice I'm coming up here, getting free hits on these guys. The Sand King is farming without any impediment whatsoever. Now, the really important part about this is that, by the way, I think you're going to see part of this up here, is that if anyone gets within a certain radius, I'm actually going to pause the video for a second here. If anyone gets within a certain radius of Sand King, say, actually I'm going to play it, but I'm going to slow it down. If they get within about this general area of Sand King, he's going to be able to burrow strike I'm going to be able to follow up with my Split Earth. That is a absolutely guaranteed double stun. There's absolutely no way they can avoid this. So that being said, let's see how we use this to our advantage. Again, I'm emitting a constant area of harassment. Sand King is receiving no damage whatsoever from these guys. Drow is having a really hard time coming in here and getting any farm. This is so important when you're playing support, guys. If you're not doing this, and say like your lane is pushed up to, you know, about right here or right here, and they're farming at this point, you don't just want to be standing in your lane. Or say if you're playing a support and you are getting outranged or out harassed by the enemy support or the enemy carry, don't just stand in the lane. That's so important. You can't just stand in the lane and be useless. You need to say stand on the sidelines and let them know that at any time if they push out too far, like say if they push out from here, you're going to be able to come in from here, come in from behind, or say if they push up a lot of ways, your ally is going to be able to come in from right here, you're going to come in from right here, and you're going to make their life living hell. Really important stuff. Key things to just playing support in general. This is not limited to just Leshrac, but the reason why I like playing Leshrac in an aggressive dual lane setup like this is because we're going to get kills. I guarantee we're going to get kills. These guys are playing fairly smart so far, but again, look at what I'm doing here. I'm coming in from here. Okay, he gets a stun off. They made a mistake. Now, the silencer was actually effectively used, but it's not going to be enough. That's going to be first blood for us. And this is actually going to be really, really close. I do get a stun up on the Drow. I do make a mistake here. If I would have stayed and got off another auto attack on the Drow, that would have been a double kill. I make a huge mistake here as well that you probably saw. I activated a salve, but the catapult hit me. That is a very, very big mistake. Very sloppy play from my part. Good on the Sand King. He was able to react in time, get off the stun, which gave me enough time to get off my Split Earth. So that is a good opportunity for me to take a breather and talk about Leshrac's skills if you're not familiar with this hero. So, Split Earth is a AoE stun ability, and by the way, the 0.35 second stun delay I don't think is 100% accurate. It's considerably longer than that. I'm actually going to go into Hero Chase Mode here real quick too. Split Earth, fairly large radius. The radius increases as you level it up. Stun duration is 2 at all levels, and the damage increases as well. Very good skill, but you need someone to set this up for you. It has quite a long stun delay. 0.35 seconds is not correct. It feels like it's more than 0.35 seconds because Leshrac has to rear up in the air, stomp down, and do his thing. Diabolic Edict, actually I'm going to go ahead and go back into player perspective. Something's about to happen here. So I do get caught out. I'm taking quite a bit of damage here. I pop my Edict immediately to start doing damage. Get off a stun on the Drow, and Sand King, that sets him up for a very, very easy stun. One more auto attack, and she's going to go down. And in exchange, Crystal Maiden is going to take a lot of damage here. I do manage to get off a stun. Sand King is going to get off a few auto attacks, and a stun is going to finish for a double kill. Extremely powerful dual lane. And what I really want to emphasize here is the amount of just offensive utility that we have with this. You really got to be thinking about, how am I going to synergize in my lane? How are our two characters going to work together? These two characters work extremely well together. Generally, the common combination you're going to see is Sand King's going to stun, I'm going to get off a Split Earth, I'm going to pop my Edict, and then we're just going to do a ton of damage to whatever target we're focusing. So, back to what I was talking about. Split Earth is relatively straightforward, good AoE stun, very, very good skill. Diabolic Edict is a very interesting skill. What this does is this generates around Leshrac a series of little explosions. What these explosions do is they hit every target within the AoE. What this means is that if there's only one target within this area of effect, it's going to hit just that one target. There is no other level 1 skill in the game that does as much damage as level 1 Diabolic Edict. Non-ultimate wise, there's no skill that does more damage than this. Let's do some quick math. Go into Hero Chase Mode. Level 1 Diabolic Edict, 32 explosions at 12 damage each. Do some quick math. 32 times 10, 320, plus 24, that's 344 damage. Yeah, I know that took me a second, but that's 344 damage if you focus this on one target over the course of its duration. That is a lot of damage. Now, where this skill really shines is the fact that it can affect towers. Alright? Now, we're about to go in for a gank on middle here. I want to talk about this. Notice how Axe is pushed up. He's pushed up pretty damn far here, but they have no vision whatsoever. We're going to go in. Sand King gets a stun off. That sets up my stun guaranteed. Easy kill. Now, one mistake that I do make here is notice how my Diabolic Edict is running, but I'm kind of wasting it. Excuse me. I could have came back into the lane, possibly did some damage to this tower, so I kind of wasted Edict there. It really was not necessary to use that. Not a huge mistake, but still, you know, little things like that definitely do add up. You might notice I have not taken any points in my third skill or my ultimate as of yet. Reason being is whenever I'm playing an offensive dual lane setup like this, I strongly prefer to max out Split Earth and Diabolic Edict first. Reason being is because while Lightning Storm is, I'm not saying this is a bad skill. Neither of these skills are bad. That's very, very important to point out. But early on, you do not have the mana pool to maintain using Lightning Storm. What this skill does is it bounces between a series of targets, deals damage to those targets. Pretty straightforward. It cannot hit the same target twice. I do want to point that out. We are going to have a pause. I'm actually going to leave it paused because there's a lot of stuff that I want to fill in that I haven't gotten a chance to talk about yet. So this is a good skill, very effective pushing skill, very good defensive skill. Let's say, for example, excuse me, I was playing a solo top, like maybe against, I don't know, like against a Broodmother, some other really strong pusher. In that case, then, taking a lot of levels in Lightning Storm might actually be a smarter idea than maxing out these skills. This is going to let me push out the lane a lot more, and it's much more on the... It's a lot better defensive early on in the game. But that's 100 mana per pop, starting at level 1, and it only gets higher from there. Damage is not all that high, but it's going to be effective as you get later into the game, and your mana pool can sustain this. This leads me to talking about Leshrac's ultimate, Pulse Nova. Pretty simple. It deals damage to targets in an AoE around you. Decent AoE, 450. Not too large, not too small, but this skill burns a ton of mana. This skill goes through mana like no other skill in the game. Costs 110 mana to activate, and at level 1 it costs you 20 mana per second. Let's say I did take this skill. If I pop this right now, that would be almost a sixth of my mana gone just for one pulse of this. And what have I accomplished? I did 66 damage in an AoE. Then, you know, let's say I let that tick down a bit more, get some more damage, maybe I get off a few pulses, but the thing is, it's going to drain your mana so fast. What do I have really right now that's going to help me regenerate my mana? I have my Ring of Basilius, which, by the way, I really like taking this. It's an extremely good early item, especially for guys like Leshrac and Sand King. But I have no way to effectively regenerate my mana. Sand King, smart item build, went for a very fast Arcane Boots given our aggressive lane setup. We really want to make sure that we don't have to leave the lane and we can just keep brutalizing these guys. Like Crystal Main's level 3, Drow is only level 5, and both of us are level 6. So we have absolutely destroyed this lane. We want to keep this up. So both of us are going for an aggressive item and skill build. His skill build is exactly what you should be doing to Sand King, especially in a situation like this. There's no need for him to pick up any levels in Caustic Finale. We're not trying to push the lane, we're just trying to crush the lane right now. And if we get kills, he's not going to need this anyway. We're going to be able to push the lane out enough, and using Diabolic Edict, we can take this tower very, very easily. So it's not necessary to pick up points and skills you don't really need. That's something to really think about for really any hero that you play. Like, do I really need this skill? Do I really need this skill? At this time, I don't. There are many different skill builds on the Leshrac, but maxing Split Earth and Diabolic Edict is probably the most common one, and it's going to lean towards a more aggressive playstyle. More defensively, you're going to be going for levels in Lightning Storm, and getting points and stats is not bad. You do not have to pick up Pulse Nova for quite some time. Usually I don't. In a lot of games, I don't pick up any levels in this till about level 9 or 10, but in certain games where I'm notably behind, I may not pick up levels in this for some time, and I may opt for stats instead, just simply for survivability. So, a couple other things. Throughout this game, I've had this spot warded the entire time. At the 2-minute mark, I check this, and over voice chat, I tell mid if the rune is top or bottom. That is very, very important when you're playing a support role. Now, one thing you might be thinking is Leshrac an item-dependent hero? Is it really wisest to play him as a support? Leshrac is an item-dependent hero, that's correct. But whenever you're going for a setup like this, you're not playing like a babysitter role, like say like a Crystal Maiden does. You're going for kills with a setup like this. So that is really important to keep in mind, guys. If you're going to play a aggressive dual lane setup, you got to kill people. You can't stand back and farm. You got to make the most of your abilities. You got to take risks, and you got to get kills. Otherwise, this setup does not work. Very, very important to point that out. If we're not getting kills early on, our setup has failed. I'm going to be behind as a Leshrac. That's not a good thing, because later in the game, whenever the team fights start happening, you're going to be focused in, you're going to die fast. So I have their pull spot warded specifically because I do not want them to be able to pull the lane back, and it looks like Drow is going to try to go for a pull. So what I'm doing right now is I'm signaling the Sand King, indicating to him that I want to kill her. So he's finishing up an item right now. He's going to come in, and Drow is trying to go for a pull right now. The reason she's doing this is because they're aware that they really can't possibly come past like this point or else they're dead. Now I make a mistake here. I assumed that she would go through here, but actually she took the wise decision and she came back up through, actually I thought she would go back this way, but what she did is actually she went up and she went around. Very smart play by her. These guys are not playing badly. I want to point that out to you guys. These guys, they're not really making any critical mistakes, but what they've been forced to do is they've been forced to take a backseat role. We've taken the initiative, we're playing very aggressively, and they've basically been dogged down because of this. I cannot emphasize how important that is. Whenever you start playing defensively in Dota, that's whenever you lose. That's really all there is to it. Like, if you're playing defensively like these guys are, you're definitely fighting an uphill battle. Very important to point that out. And I want to go ahead and take a look at the last hits and denies. Take a look at Sand King's farm versus like Anti-Mage's or Axe's farm. Sand King has the most last hits on our team right now, and it's actually fairly comparable with how the Anti-Mage and the Axe are doing. That's pretty damn huge for a Sand King. Like, if we take a look at the bottom lane here, Anti-Mage has a good farming setup. He even has a Quelling Blade right now. So, by all... Okay, I just missed a kill up here, so I apologize for that. But it looks like I went and I actually ganked mid. So, that's pretty sweet. I apologize if I missed that. Looks like what happened, I came down here, I landed a stun, I used my Edict, and we were able to kill him. So, what I want to point out now is the power of Diabolic Edict. Right now, there's only one viable target. Edict does not hit siege minions, by the way, but there's only one viable target. That's the tower. That means my Diabolic Edict is only going to hit the tower. I was able to take it from 3/4 life down to below 1/4 with just one cast at Edict. This skill is so incredibly strong. Matter of fact, if I don't max this out, it just doesn't feel right. This is kind of the mistake, by the way. Typically, I like to max Edict before Splitter. Not a big deal, though. Not really a huge mistake when it's all said and done. So anyway, back to talking about last hits and stuff. Sand King is having a perfectly fine time up here. The reason this is valuable is because he's going to get his core up very quickly. He's got his Arcane Boots, he's got his Ring of Health, he's probably going for a Vanguard. Again, gets off a stun, I get off a guaranteed stun. Look at that damage. There's nothing they can do about this. One more auto attack, she goes down. So again, they got within the kill zone. If they get within, like... Let's slow this down again. If they literally get within, like, about this area of Sand King, it's over. Like, they can't do anything. So this should be interesting. We know Axe is coming up. We spotted it with our ward. I missed my stun. That's a huge mistake. What I should have done there is I should have waited for Sand King to get a stun off. This was a huge mistake as well, by the way. Standing in range of Axe's ultimate. Again, guys, the reason I'm making these videos is so you don't have to repeat the same mistakes I do. So, really, really sloppy play on my part. Matter of fact, I'm going to go back to that so you can see just how terrible that was. So, what I do here is I incorrectly predict Axe's movements where he's going to be right here. Get off a stun, but the bad part about this is now that means that Sand King's going to be able to stun, but mine's not going to be back off a cooldown. Not only that, I don't have enough mana to cast anything else. Very, very bad mistake. Very bad play on my part. Alright. Thankfully, I agree with Sand King's usage of his ultimate there. He would have not have gotten the kill otherwise, so good play by him. And no, there's nothing wrong with using your ultimate on a single target. You do what you gotta do to get that kill, man. So, I do not agree with this whatsoever. Maxing Arcane Aura is a huge mistake, especially in a setup like this. She's got to slow us down however she can, because we're not able to get off like a one-hit kill burst. We're very, very close to that, but if Crystal Maiden has any way to slow us down with her Crystal Nova or for her Frostbite, she should. So going for a max Arcane Aura like this, huge mistake. Like, what benefit are they really getting from this? I could save that topic of discussion for a future video, but anyway. So, Sand King has his Vanguard finished, and let's talk about stuff like item builds that I could go for on Leshrac now. So, doing fairly well this game. I have 5 kills, so I'm actually pretty farmed despite not actually being the farmer in the lane. It looks like our Death Prophet came in for a gank. A slow reaction by us, definitely a mistake by me. But that's okay, we're going to be able to get a kill on this Crystal Maiden, and she's dead. Notice what I did there too is I intentionally made sure not to take the last hit from the Sand King. I could have, because getting a kill for either of us is really beneficial, but you know, if you're playing a support role, generally you should be making some amount of effort to not, you know, intentionally grab the kills from the guy who's, you know, you're trying to get farmed up. Not a huge thing, but it's something I kind of wanted to point it out. Arcane Boots up. This game is kind of questionable whether I really needed to go for Arcane Boots. Reason being is because I think that all three of us have Arcane Boots, and yes we do, so it's kind of a waste in this particular example, but we're not going to run out of mana, I can tell you that. And look at this pushing lineup. Like, the combination of Edict along with Death Prophet's ultimate towers are just going to vaporize. This is so important whenever you're facing carry setups like this, guys. Like, facing a Drow and an Anti-Mage, we cannot let this game go on for terribly long, because if it does, just think of all those times whenever you played a 50-minute game, Anti-Mage comes out of the jungle and he can just kills everybody without blinking twice. He blinks in once and kills everybody. That's the joke. So yeah, really, really important when you're playing setups like this is take advantage of your character's strengths. We have a lot of pushing power here. Very important to utilize that and make the most of it. So coming down bottom, I have the express intention to push down this tower. That's why I'm down here. So we're going to go up here, see what we can get done. And I might try to go for a blind stun here. And yes, I do. I do land a stun on Anti-Mage. Nice follow-up from the Sand King, and that's going to be way too much damage. He's not going to be able to take that. A little bit of a mistake on my end there. I shouldn't have backed up. Notice how I backed up that way slightly. What that actually did was that put the Shadow Shaman out of range of my Edict. Thankfully, the Riki was there to follow up, but kind of a mistake by me. I should not have backed up there. If you're taking tower damage, by the way, just force auto-attack a friendly creep. That will work every single time, and it will take tower aggro off of you. So take a look at what we're about to do. All we had to do was kill these two heroes. We're going to take both a tier 1 and a tier 2. This tower stands no chance. It completely vaporizes. Glyph is not going to help this. Edict is on a fairly short cooldown, and we have enough damage to take this out anyway. So, 15-minute mark. We have all tier 1s down, 1 tier 2, and all of our towers are still standing. We are definitely doing very well. So, item builds on the Leshrac. I do want to make sure that my role as support is maintained, so I'm going to keep buying wards. But the next big item that I want to go for is going to be a Bloodstone. The reason that I like Arcane Boots is because it builds into a Bloodstone. And in the earlier parts of the game, Arcane Boots is going to keep your mana pool healthy. Not healthy enough where I can really spam stuff like Pulse Nova and Lightning Storm. I do decide to take 1 point in Pulse Nova now just so that I can have it. I feel like I'm ahead enough in this game where my mana pool is doing pretty good and I'm going to be able to sustain it. So now's the time I'm going to go and pick up a level in it. I pick up a point booster. This is going to build into my... If I've been saying Soulstone, if I have, I apologize. I mean... Let me hide this. I mean Bloodstone. This is an item that I like to rush on the Leshrac almost every game. Not to say if I'm having survivability issues, I might not pick up a bracer or two, perhaps a Drum of Endurance. That's very important if you're not doing terribly well in your game. Just, you know, kind of eke out your survivability, get your HP up so you can come back from it. But Bloodstone is incredibly powerful. It gives you everything this hero needs. Health, mana, and a lot of regen. And as you get kills, you're only going to get more. This only scales up as you snowball harder and harder. Very good item, but there's a couple different paths you can take to build this item as well. I'm taking the safer route where I'm choosing to build my Soul Booster first, which is built from the Point Booster, Vitality Booster, and Energy Booster. So all I need to do is farm up my Vitality Booster, and I'm going to have my Soul Booster actually done, because I can disassemble my Mana Boots, and yeah, that's awesome. Perseverance, great regeneration item, a little bit riskier. This particular game, I think I actually should have went this one first. This is going to give you more regen than the Soul Booster does, but it's riskier because it's not going to give you the flat stats. So important to keep those things in mind. See what we got going on here. Looks like we're going to be able to take this tier 2. Those guys are getting pretty dangerously close to us, by the way. Let's see if we can make something happen here. Sand King does get off a stun on the Crystal Main, follow-up stun, Split Earth. She's taking a lot of damage here. He does use his ultimate. That's a bit overkill in the situation, but that's okay. Not a problem. Looks like Sand King does have his Blink Dagger. So Sand King's core is completely done at the 17-minute mark. Let's take a look at how our farm levels are doing. So kills, deaths, assist. You can see we're obviously doing very well. Let's take a look at something a little more interesting than that, actually. So last hits... I actually can't do that in player perspective. Anyway, it looks like Axe might die again. And by the way that I'm doing this, where I'm about to cast a stun, but I'm canceling it, is hit the S key. That will cancel a spell animation if you don't want to go through with it. Very important on heroes like Leshrac, Earthshaker, guys that have a long casting animation. Definitely stop that before it goes off. Might be in a little bit of a situation here, getting chased down. I'm being slowed down by the ice arrows. I do pop my wand to try to stay alive. Start up Diabolic Edict to try to do some damage to these guys. Good stun going down on the axe. That's going to keep me alive during this. But Shadow Shaman follows up, and it looks like he's going to be able to take me out. And there I go. But that's okay. He is going to trade his own life for that. Let's see if we're going to see some more fighting here. Looks like both sides are going to back off. That's totally fine. Okay, so now is the time when Leshrac is really going to start to get scary. Now that I've almost hit the level 11 mark, my soul booster is done. All I have to do is go to the side shop, finish that up. That item is going to be done. Man, Leshrac is absolutely horrifying. There's really nothing these guys can do at this point to stop this. Unfortunately, their carries got shut down a bit too hard. And again, I don't want to show off these videos like to show off blatant stomps like this, but rather to show you how you should be playing these heroes. That's the main thing that you should take away from this. Let's take a look at some other interesting things. Take a look at the XP per minute. Very high. Sand King is eking out on top by far. Reason being is, again, because I've kept him very safe during farming, and we've got a lot of kills in the top lane, so very good to see. Crystal Maiden has been effectively zoned out of XP the entire game, so she is horribly screwed. Gold per minute, Sand King is on top, followed closely by myself, again because we've gotten so many kills. If we wouldn't have gotten all those kills early on, it would not look anything like this. It is very important, yet again, if you're going to play these aggressive lanes, you've got to get kills. That is so critical. You can't do it like a lane where, say, like you have a, looks like I'm going to find an axe. Bad stun. But that's okay. Had some backup. The way that Pulse Nova works, by the way, you might have saw me use it there, is it's a toggleable ability, so you can just tap R, toggle it on. I'm going to use it to clear a creep wave here. Turn it off, turn it on. Nice ability, very good for clearing creep waves. Probably one of the better abilities in the game for clearing waves, if your mana pool can sustain it. My mana regeneration right now is not sufficient at 5.3 per second. I've got to finish my soul booster just as soon as I can. Very critical that I get that up. A lot of other things you can talk about too. The early game did not last all that terribly long because there's a lot of other things I want to talk about as support. I feel like we went over fairly well, like the concepts of the area of denial and the kill zone. The fact that you've got to keep your carry safe while farming. Do not stand in the lane and be useless. I cannot emphasize that enough. Very important. Got a team fight going on here. Shadow Shaman wards do go down, doing a fair amount of damage to us here. And unfortunately, my Edict is not going to hit these. It looks like that Treant did use his ultimate, and that's going to hold him in place for a lot of damage by us. So definitely a good job by the Sand King. Got in there and did his work. Nice job by the Treant, too. Got to give him some credit for that. Yeah, Shadow Shaman wards kind of suck. They're not affected by magic abilities. I should be attacking these and not the tower, by the way. Kind of a mistake. Not a huge deal, though. We're going to be able to take these out. And it looks like that is going to be a barracks for us, so not a problem at all. And again, like, I want to emphasize the fact that the reason we're pushing this hard and this fast is because you cannot let the game go on for this long if you're playing against hard carries like this. And at this point, these guys are just kind of feeding themselves to us, so that's okay. That's going to happen sometimes. Not a lot they can do at this point. Ricky's just going to barely get out of here, but he gets away with a nice double kill, so nice job by him. And yeah, I failed to point this out whenever I did it, but I disassembled my mana boots and I built the soul booster off of that. So plan out your item builds, guys. Don't just say, like, buy an ultimate orb and then buy a vitality booster and then buy a circlet, build a bracer off of that. No, you've got to build items, you've got to finish them, because the combination of items is going to be greater than the sum of their parts, and Bloodstone is one of the best examples in the game of that. The benefits that you get from finishing this are just massive, and it makes it so that you never have to go back to base again if you finish this item. Very strong. Great on heroes like Leshrac, Death Prophet, Undying. Generally, you want to build this item on caster characters that need a lot of regen, and odds are you're going to be focused in team fights, which Leshrac is going to be focused in team fights. He's big and he's scary, and people know people know that he does a lot of AoE damage. So there are a lot of viable item builds you can go on him. Once you have your Bloodstone done, that's pretty much your core. For boots, I do not recommend picking up Arcane boots. That would be a complete waste. I really like phase boots on Leshrac. Being able to move around quickly and make sure you stay close to people to keep your AoE damage going is very important. So, Bloodstone is done. Look how much my regeneration just jumped. I now have 10 HP regen per second and 14 mana per second. And every kill that we get whenever I'm in an AoE with this item, that's going to give me 2 more mana regen, because for every charge, you get 1 mana regen per second. However, you also get 200% mana regen. So do the math. You get 2 mana regen for every kill you get. That is absolutely massive. You get a few charges going on this, like, it doesn't matter what you cast. You're not going to run out of mana. It's just not going to happen. Super, super powerful item. Some other stuff that you can do that's a lot of fun on the Leshrac is, let's say that the game did not go nearly as well as it did for us. I might go for something like a Shiva's Guard instead. So let's take a look at that item. So Shiva's Guard, very, very good. Gives you more intelligence, which is going to give you more auto attack damage, but more importantly, it's going to give you a bigger mana pool and more regen. 15 armor, very strong, and its active is also quite good. So let's say that the Anti-Mage and the Drow did do fairly well this game. I'm going to need a lot more survivability. Shiva's Guard is going to fill in that gap for me. Or perhaps I'm super, super tanky, which by this point I'm fairly tanky. I'm still not amazing, but I can definitely survive. Maybe I want to go for something like a Blade Mail. This is extremely effective against heroes that have a lot of nukes, particularly anti-mages. Looks like I did miss that, but Sand King went in, he ulted, he blinked in, super easy kill, no problem. Horrible stun by me. I don't know what the hell I was doing there, but that's okay. What I should be doing here is activating my Pulse Nova. Would have done a lot more damage there if I would have turned that on. Looks like I was silenced during that time, but so that would definitely be a reason why I did not do that. Turn on my Edict. Tower's going to melt under both the Edict and the damage from Death Prophet's ulti. Barely just misses the stun there, but that's okay. I would say that he's done his job plenty adequately by this point. Again, a lot of different items you can go on the Leshrac. You could go something like, say, a Pipe is definitely a viable option. Lincoln Sphere if there's a lot of direct target spells. A Heart if you want to be really, really tanky and the game lasts that long. A lot of different stuff you can do in this character, a lot of fun builds. And again, this guy is super, super adaptable. You can build Aghanim Scepter. It does give your ulti quite a bit of extra damage. Generally speaking, I only get this if the game goes on for a very long time. The damage boost you get it's okay. I'm not saying Aghanim Scepter is a bad item, it's just generally not an item that I generally go for. But yeah, it's going to make your ulti hit even harder than it already does, so it's nice. And it does give you some nice survivability, so I definitely don't want to hate on it. Excuse me, Scythe of Eyes, not a bad item. However, I think if you combine this with Bloodstone, you're kind of wasting the regen parts of this, but again, having a sheep stick against the Fed Anti-Mage is always a nice thing. Force Staff is nice. I have seen some players get Blink Dagger. A lot of different stuff you can do. So when all is said and done, this particular game, we have a strong pushing lineup, particularly with Leshrac and Death Prophet. This is how you counter teams that like to go with a lot of carries, particularly like Drow, Anti-Mage, Lifestealer, Morphling, Faceless Void, guys like that. You got to be very aggressive. You got to be aggressive fast. And just look at all the damage my Edict is doing just to that Anti-Mage. That is absolutely ridiculous. Sand King coming in, ulti does go down, vaporizes Shadow Shaman. He does get his wards off, but they're not really going to do much to us. So by this point in the game, there's really not much point in talking about the tactical parts that's happening here in the team fights. They're so far behind, there's really not much they can really do about it. So again, if you're going to play a role like support Leshrac, you got to keep your allies safe. You got to keep your farming guys safe in the lane. And if your partner is safe in the lane, say they're a very capable guy that can handle them some solo, like say another range carry, for example, someone like a Mirana that can do just fine solo to begin with, then it's fine to go ahead and roam. Leshrac is an extremely powerful roaming support. Go in the jungle. Screw whoever's farming in there. Like, it's so important to be doing something all the time. You don't just want to be sitting in the lane idle. I do finish my phase boots, and again, I have 15 charges on Bloodstone. Look at that mana regen. That is absolutely absurd. So, I know this was kind of a fast one, guys. I know this was a bit of a stomp, but it just really, really shows the power of what you can do whenever you effectively plan your lane and you play your lane effectively. So, so important to really think about this every single game. Take a look at the final score screen here. It's, oh my god, I didn't realize it was 31-3. Jesus Christ, maybe I shouldn't publish this. So, what I really want to point out here is the fact that at the end of the game, the Drow had virtually no farm. The Anti-Mage did okay, all things considered, but the reason he was able to do this is because our bottom lane wasn't terribly strong. Dual melee is hardly ever a good idea, guys. You know, the Treant, Ricky, just don't do that stuff. So he was able to farm a bit, but Drow was completely and utterly shut down. All she has is power treads. Very important stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Any feedback you have, please post in the comments section. I would love to hear from you. Hope this helps you out, and I will be back. Thanks for watching.